Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this exciting discussion with Hooters. I was just telling Chip and John that it's lunchtime and I'm very hungry, and now all I can think about is chicken wings. So I will do my best to stay on focus and not salivate while we're going through this, but really excited to have Hooters on. It's such an iconic brand, and really excited to hear from Chip and from John, Vice President of Sales at Tattle. Chip is the Director of Operations Services at Hooters. And I'm Lori Stout. I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at Punch and Par. So a couple of quick housekeeping things before we get started. You're all probably familiar with how this works, but we'll send out a copy of the recording and a copy of the slides if you're interested, so that you can share them with a colleague or review anything that you'd like to go back to. We'll take some time at the end of the webinar to take some questions. And if we don't get to your question or you think of something after the fact, you're more than welcome to contact us and we'll be happy to follow up with you after the webinar. So with that, I would like to turn it over to John to give us a quick introduction of who Tattle is and what they do, and set up the stage for what they're doing for Hooters.
Thanks, Lori. So Tattle is a customer experience improvement platform. We were built to address really all of the historical shortcomings of mystery shoppers, legacy platforms, social aggregation tools. We rely on incredible partnerships and integrations like the one we have with Punch to automate the process of getting the survey to the guest, while also pre-populating much of the transactional information so a guest doesn't have to manually fill out all those fields. Obviously, ROI is the most important thing to anyone when they're obviously looking for a feedback platform. So we have a unique guest recovery attribution system, so you can actually track guest recovery right through our dashboard. We also can push the folks that have had a really positive experience with the brand to social media sites like Yelp to leave a good review. And then hopefully we can intercept the ones that have had a negative experience to rectify those issues before they make it onto social media to say some not so nice things. Our brands boast about a 70% guest recovery rate through our automated follow-up templates. And really beyond that, we just focus on collecting actionable data, keyword being actionable, and use our AI to serve up the one thing each location needs to work on to improve the overall guest experience. Our data shows that when a location actually reaches the goal that Tattle is automatically setting for them, that overall guest satisfaction will go up at an 84% probability. So that's my little spiel on Tattle. And yeah.
Great, thanks, John. I will turn it over to Chip now to give us an introduction of a brand that really needs no introduction. But Chip, tell us a little bit about Hooters and what you guys have been up to.
All right, well, good to be here today. First of all, John, thanks for laying the groundwork for this. But as it's shown on the screen, Hooters is a 39-year-old concept. Actually, in 2.5 weeks, we turned 39. But we're a customer experience-based concept, right? With the iconic Hooters girl, who is known worldwide and mostly known for the Hooters girl, the wings, the beer, but there's so many other items that we have. But the main thing that we liked about Tattle and us partnering up is it's all about the customer experience and being able to record that, touch customers and reach out to them. We found that that was very influential in what we do with the customers moving forward.
Thank you. And to end this section, before we jump into some questions for Chip and John, just wanted to give you a little bit of information about Punch. As John mentioned, we partner with Tattle and a variety of other partners to offer best-in-class loyalty in a broad ecosystem of systems and applications. We offer that through personalized customer journeys that we help our brands create through real-time and historical data. And one of the cool things that our platform does, we can segment that data. Anything that you can capture in the point of sale, we can capture that on the receipt and tag it down to what toppings somebody orders on a pizza or what kind of dipping sauce they like with their wings. And we can use all of that data to help our brands understand what offers that they want to send on which channels to which guest segments and really personalize those customer journeys. We do all of that with machine learning as the underpinning of our platform so that we can act as an extension of your marketing team And again, through our partnerships with partners like Tattle, we have access to just loads and loads of zero and first party data that we can use to help you personalize the guest experience. So we're going to jump right into the Q&A here. That's the part everybody's interested in. So Chip, you just mentioned that Hooters is about to celebrate its 39th birthday. It's just a little bit younger than I am. The brand has seen a lot of change over the past 4 decades, but nothing as dramatic as the past few years. It's been a wild ride for everybody. Tell us a little bit about how an iconic brand like Hooters not only was able to survive during the pandemic, but how you guys pivoted so quickly that you were able to thrive and be where you are today.
Yeah, well, Laurie, it all started, the first thing I like to say is a saying I always use is not just being at the right place at the right time, but being prepared when that time arrives, right? And luckily, timing wise for us, we had started about 2 years previous. So it's 2018. We had started working with a lot of different delivery service providers and partnered up with, I don't know, we were somewhere between 7 and 9 delivery service providers at one time. And we went at it, in every angle we could, partnering up with those guys because we wanted to reach every customer we could and grow sales, right? And then the pandemic hits. And so within the 48-hour window, we went from being 90 plus percent of our sales was dine in and dine in experience to where we were 100% food to go and takeout.
Wow.
So if we hadn't laid that groundwork for food to go platform and using the delivery service providers and introducing our pickup situation and curbside, we started curbside as well. During the pandemic, we would have been behind the 8 ball, like a lot of concepts were. So we feel like just, being ahead of the game on delivery service providers and, picking up food at the restaurant, taking it home, which some of our guests do, we were ahead of that curve. Now, that didn't mean that we didn't have to do like everyone else and let a lot of people go, right? But it definitely got us, it kept us above water quickly, right? It threw us a quick life raft that we could jump on and ride it until we could, steady the waters and find out what was coming in the near future.
So technology has obviously evolved for the Hooters brand quite a bit over the past few years. And in the midst of, pivoting to food to go, you rolled out a loyalty program and maintained that along with customer feedback, courtesy of Tattle. How did you determine where to place your focus in those new technologies, and what led you to that path of digital transformation? How did you place your priorities?
Yeah, well, again, it was with the food to go platform that we were rolling out in 18. We were also looking at, through many RFPs, looking at testing different concepts and software and how do we reach our customers, and not only using the loyalty programs, which we like to use that. We say that our regulars are our loyalty program customers, but then also how do you reach that first time customer, first time guest, whether it be through a delivery service provider or through pickup, and how do we gain their, how do we gain their business past that first encounter, right? And with the platforms that we've been in previously, it was let's wait and see if they have a problem, right? That's usually how you got the information back from that customer, was usually negative. Where this, we found that a lot of our customers that came to dine in Hooters post pandemic actually found out about Hooters and tried our food during the pandemic through delivery service providers. So we just used it as an opportunity, right? An opportunity, and took advantage of it, and through loyalty programs and the delivery service providers and reaching out to the customers, which I'm sure we'll get into in just a few minutes, but reaching those customers after they dined with us. We thought that was a very positive role in us growing through the pandemic.
Great. John, a question for you related to that. So it seems like customer feedback is coveted. It's highly sought after, especially by restaurant brands. What do you think has led to that high demand and such a rise in interest in technologies like Tattle?
Yeah, great question. I think one, it has become like really apparent that social media alone doesn't tell the whole story, and that you really just need more granularity to actually drive improvement at a location level. Speaking of social media, in another life worked at Yelp for many years, so I've heard many restaurateurs, say what they want to say about social and how it tends to be pretty negative. I think it's also important to note that restaurants at this point are adopting more technology than ever. At a conference I was at recently, I think Chipotle called themselves a technology company. And so the way guests want to order and interact with the restaurant has changed. And so, because everything is changing, the way you collect guest feedback has to change with it. COVID, I believe changed buying behaviors for guest feedback. A lot of brands, like Chip was saying, went from a huge dining business to now the majority of their revenue happening outside of the four walls of the restaurant. So it's just really hard to rectify a bad experience when the guest is a couple of miles away and they're missing something. So having a really integrated way to get that survey to the guest is absolutely critical. So my hope is let's try to get away from the 14-digit code at the bottom of the receipt and maybe a simple contact us form and focus more on like an internal sort of structured approach to guest feedback.
Great. And I think you had a follow-up question for Chip related to how they're using feedback specifically.
Yeah, Chip, this is very important to me. So what made you realize the need to change your existing feedback platform, which through many conversations that we've had, I know you used for a really long time, to switch to something like Tattle? And what were some key benefits that you've noticed since you've made the switch?
Yep. So for us, the first thing was with Tattle was real-time feedback, right? They were able to do it while they were sitting right there at the restaurant. Real-time feedback. Also, it wasn't a complaint login, right? It wasn't just reach out to Hooters and let them know what you didn't like. It was more of a feedback. Give us what you thought. We're reaching out to the customer, within 90 minutes after they order delivery service providers food. We're reaching out to them and asking them how that experience is. It's kind of like opening the door and saying, have a great day for someone leaving your dining room, right? Rather than let's wait and see if they notice anything. So our restaurants, our staff, they love the positive feedback. That's something that we've never really gotten in the past. We're reaching tons and tons more customers than we were through this as well, reaching out to them. And then, the thing that I like and the thing that we measure most is from that feedback you get from the customer, it's the actual real-time experience rating, overall rating that they gave you during their experience. And that is, I guess we'll go further into this and further down the road. But the thing that we liked about that is give me your overall experience first, right? First of mind, they either loved it, it was okay, or they hated it for the most part. Then as we prompt into questions, then you can find out what set that attitude, what set that experience rating for them initially. But the initial feedback we get and experience rating that we get from that customer is really heavy for us. That weighs a lot on our GMs, our regional managers. We have a scorecard, and that's a high percentage of it.
And I would think that the ability to get that real-time feedback is a great complement to your loyalty program. You can find out, like you said, not just who had a complaint or who wanted something else with their experience, but you can kind of dive in and see who your most loyal raving fans are and start to offer them some more VIP experiences and really build on that loyalty and converting them to Hooters super fans. So that is really cool. So we talked about how you had to pivot really fast, Chip. During the pandemic, you had to think of new ways to instill confidence in your staff and your guests that you could still deliver the great brand experience, but in a safe and convenient way. No small feat. So how did that agility have an impact on your recovery and how successful the brand was? And what new processes are you going to carry forward now that we're on the other side of, or virtually on the other side of the pandemic? What did you learn and fire up during COVID that you want to carry forward as part of your tech stack?
Sorry, first time. No. Yeah, as we talked about being a experience driven, right? Customer experience driven concept and using our iconic Hooters girls, pivoted for us a ton. It also, with labor force being reduced, right, during the COVID year and a half, we felt like, we had to let a lot of people in our restaurants go for that time period. And during that, we had managers that probably hadn't been in the kitchen quite a while, actually cooking. We had them back in the kitchen, and they were coming. It was awesome. I loved it, just because we were getting daily feedback from those guys that, hey, why are we doing this? Right? Something that they hadn't seen or their cooks had bubbled up to them. We were seeing a lot of feedback from those guys as to, hey, we need to look at changing this. We've looked at small reduction of our menu, some items that actually were taking too long in the kitchen to make, or slowing up other items that we should be able to make faster, but it was being put in a holding tent because we were making some other items in that same process or same fryer or on the grill. So we looked at that. It helped us, reevaluate the menu, reevaluate certain processes that we've been doing for 39 years, and see if there's another faster way in doing those, and more of a let's hear more from the field and see what we want. Just as we're reaching out to our customers, we reach out to our field more now than we ever have, to find out what's working, what's not, what are they hearing from the customers. So we use that pandemic for the year and a half that everything was crazy. We use that as an opportunity.
Great. So let's shift a little bit and talk about what you're doing today. So we've already discussed how customer loyalty and feedback go hand in hand. How has that worked functionally at Hooters? You have Punchh, you have Tattle. How do you pair those two technologies together to really get to the heart of what you want to know from your guests?
Yeah, so I touched on it a few minutes ago, but we reach out to those customers who are dining in through a note at the bottom of their receipts to contact us via Tattle and give us your feedback. And then we also reach out to all customers who are using our delivery service providers. So we use those as well, and reach out to them within 90 minutes of them placing the order or receiving the order. So once they have their food, they're contacted within 90 minutes to ask them how it was. That's something we've never done. And we think that's great for us to learn from. And also it's just great habits for us to have with our customers, and to get their feedback, not waiting months and months before you hear from them. Initial feedback is great. And then, as you say, a lot of habits, both for us in the industry, but also customers and guests, just as their habits changed, our habits changed, their habits changed, and I don't see where the habits will go back, right? Some habits are there forever. Like we're all on a Zoom call right now, right? Instead of some conference room in Las Vegas, like we probably would have been 4 years ago. But so yeah, habits have changed, and we're going to have to bend with those habits and move forward and see where it's headed and try to stay ahead of it, like we were able to do with our food to go service providers prior to the pandemic.
Great. And John, a question for you. So it's clear that customer feedback is worth its weight in gold. Everybody wants it, everybody needs it. But how do you actually get guests to respond to those surveys and that request for feedback and engage with you?
Yeah, another great question. I would say for the most part, it's predicated on integrations and partnerships. So I was lucky enough to join Tattle literally 30 days prior to it officially being announced that this was a global pandemic. So I was in an office for a short amount of time, then we left. And, at that point, we weren't proactively reaching out to restaurants for obvious reasons. So we took it upon ourselves to really accelerate the amount of integrations and partnerships that we established during a time when, like I said, we didn't really want to reach out to restaurants. So I think that is crucial. And the other thing too is that people these days are just used to having an experience and then getting a survey to rate that experience. You think about Airbnb, you stay somewhere and after your stay, you get served a survey to rate your experience, or you get in an Uber and then you get out of the Uber and you get a survey to rate your driver. So people are used to this type of thing. And I think sort of restaurant and hospitality has moved into that same on-demand space. So, placing an order, giving the guest enough time to consume their food, and then shooting them a survey at the most optimal time to increase engagement for us is crucial. So we like to pre-populate the survey with a lot of the information that historically guests have had to fill out manually. So we feel like if a guest can spend less time filling out all of this sort of tedious information about their actual experience, like where it took place, when it took place, their email address, time, etc., they can spend more time filling out the questions that are really important to the brand. Like Chip was saying before, sort of the why behind any sort of satisfaction or dissatisfaction.
And I know there's the old adage that everybody uses that feedback is a gift, but it really is. And it's such a great way to get more of that zero and first party data that your guests will give to you more freely once they realize that you're actually using that data and turning it into a better experience for them. So I love the idea of collecting that in real time and being able to act on it and really prove the value of trusting brands like Hooters with your data, because you're going to get a better experience. So.
Yeah. And Chip, I have to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. I know, we had a nice relationship before you officially had signed up with Tattle. And I know one of the things that Hooters was really relying upon was the call center. And it's not the first time that I've heard it. I hear it a lot. So how did you sort of successfully transition away from the call center, and what are some benefits of doing so, and have you received any backlash from cutting the phone line?
Yeah, well, the short answer to that is you just have to rip the Band-Aid off, right? You just have to go. It's going to hurt less the quicker you do it. We found that, yes, with anything in change, especially with a 39-year-old concept, you're going to have people who had our previous customer complaint line, as you would say, in their phone, right? And they would use it for anything. I could write a book on the things that they called in about, but we were paying that provider by the second to take that phone call, listen to that phone call, transcribe that phone call, and then send it to us basically in an email. Whereas we could have just directly connected to the customer like we do now, have them fill out the issue or the problem or the thank you and enjoyed the experience and get that back. So that was a big change for us. We typically get far less complaints via phone, and that just comes to the corporate office, because at the end of the day, if they want to find you and complain, they will find you and complain. So we thought, why tie up Tattle's time with collecting phone calls? So we've just gone to the software that we use.
Thank you for that. It would have been my cell phone. So
after all, they do have your phone number. That's what we have on our website, John, is your phone number.
Oh, thank you.
So sometimes, Chip, it seems like for restaurant operators, it isn't a matter of collecting enough data, but it's knowing which data points really matter and what you're collecting and tracking to prove the ROI of your tech investment. What metrics are you tracking at Hooters, and how are you kind of measuring the success of some of this technology that you've implemented? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. Something popped up on my screen. Anyway, yeah, with this, the biggest thing with the feedback that we're getting and the data that we're able to dive into, something that we never had before, was being able to dive into it by day of the week, by day part, and then whether it was dine in, food to go, pick up, whatnot. And that was key to us, finding out, are 90% of your complaints, right, or 1 or 2 star ratings from your customers. I would say the majority of ours is food to go, but I think everyone in the industry is the same way, right? our biggest thing was, let's see what we can control what we can control, and we know how to do dine-in, right? So we should be 4s and 5 stars all day, all night, no matter what shift, no matter what day. That's what we've been doing for 39 years. So we expect our scores to be a lot higher from the customer on dine-in experience than we do, say, in food to go platform. But that's just the norm right now for food to go.
And since you have this new line of sight into that customer experience and you can kind of measure dine-in versus food to go, has that given you any opportunities to, I mean, we've talked about the negative of, hey, let's coach employees on how to deliver a better experience, but has it given you a chance to celebrate star employees, to engage your employees in a new way?
Yeah, both. We're able to, highlight the ones who are doing it well. We have a chart that shows it throughout the whole store. They know who the best in the company is with using the Tattle platform. They also know who's at the bottom. And not only that, we use it as coaching. It's one thing for a manager to know that in his head, right? Or looking at numbers, he can say, gosh, my sales are down on Tuesdays at lunch. I have no idea why. I'm not sure why we're not getting the crowd that we do on Tuesdays, that we do Wednesdays and Thursdays. Then when you look at this, you can look at the data and say, hey, is that we're not getting very good ratings from customers at lunch on Tuesdays. And the majority of the reason is this, right? Is it the Hooters girls on that shift? Is it the, food not ready in time? All the different things that measures, and ask during the survey to that customer, we're able to dive into that and find out the why, as to why are our sales down at that store on a Tuesday at lunch? And is it something that's also that the same days that shift works together other days as well? So it gives us that opportunity to look in the mirror and see just how well we're doing.
So we've talked a little bit about how important it is for your technology to be integrated and talking to each other. So the connection between customer loyalty and customer feedback, for example, and how that impacts the experience that you're delivering. How important do you think those integrations will become, and the ability to integrate pieces of your tech stack over the next year or 2 years, especially for brands like Hooters?
It's going to be huge, right? That's something that we want to find out how to. I wish we could, as the customer walked in, it would scan them in. We could scan them in, know that John's coming in. He always sits at table 23. He always orders the buffalo wing platter, right? He always orders Miller Lite. I wish we were to that point yet. We're not, but hopefully it's trending that way. We want to know what that customer wants. Everybody wants to be treated like Norm at Cheers, right? Especially in a customer experience environment. And we would like to know more about our customers as they come in our restaurant. And that's going to be the technology side that we're looking at next.
Great. So digging into that a little bit more, what does that next level in customer experience look like? You just mentioned kind of the utopia of knowing who's walking in your doors and where they want to sit and who their favorite server is, but what are you going to do next to bump your customer experience up to the next level?
Just that, see what's changing, right? Not only is technology changing, but so are habits and characteristics. Remember, the majority of our Hooters, iconic Hooters girls are 18 to 25, right? I have 2 daughters that land in that age range. I can tell you, I talk to them via text more than I do via face-to-face. And that's just the new world, right? Like they want information now. They want to be able to gather information. They want to be able to find it on their own with one search word. And they want to be able to fact check. They want to be able to order from their phone. At one point, my 5-year-old, was, oh my gosh, we need, it was a pumpkin. We had a pumpkin for Halloween at school the very next day. It was like a week before Halloween. We're like, why is that so? And how are we going to do this? And of course, their first thing out of their mouth was, we'll just order it via Amazon. It'll be here in the morning. That's where we're headed, to where it's now, and we want to be able to react quick and get the customers what they want, because, all these platforms that people are ordering from, if you're slower than the other person right next to you, the person next to you is going to get the business just because they're going to be quicker. So our focus is being customer base driven, right? Still providing the experience, but also being ahead of the game in reaction.
Great. And I love that analogy of Amazon, which has also saved me more than once when my kids told me they have a project due in roughly 8 hours from when we go to bed. But I think you're absolutely right that that frictionless experience is becoming more and more important. And just because we're on the other side of the pandemic, I mean, I, as a consumer, don't want to give up some of those fast, easy, contactless, don't even have to think about it, tech experiences with the brands that I frequent. So it's great to hear that you guys are thinking along those same lines. John, a question for you. We have a lot of operators on the phone today, and if you might not be sure where to start when it comes to evaluating where they should begin with their digital transformation and kind of what that step one looks like, what advice would you have for them?
Yeah, I mean, I am obviously biased as the VP of sales, but I am a huge proponent of letting people just try it out. I think right now in this day and age, there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to pilot or test something before you put forward that capital investment. And so me personally, I like to say, I just want to get out of my own way. Right. So if you're looking for a new piece of technology and you're not able to try it before you buy it, I think that's sort of a red flag at times. And so I think that's like the number one thing. I would love, in the not so distant future to hopefully, slowly move away from an RFP type of environment to more of like we're just going to try a bunch of people out. We're going to use like the real data that we're collecting, and then we're going to make an educated decision as to who we want to move forward with. And that would save me a lot of time, and hopefully it would save the brand a lot of time too.
I think I just heard VPs of sales all over the world shouting, amen.
Oh gosh.
So we just have a couple more questions here before we take some audience questions. So a question for both of you, Chip, if you want to start. What, in your experience, is the single most important thing a brand can do today to invest in the future success of their technology and their customer experience?
Investing in your people, right? And doing so, making their job easier, right? At the end of the day, you don't want to be the hardest job, right? And so when it comes down to it, if you're paying the same, if the experience is the same, both great, right? You're going to go, someone's going to pick the easier job. So our job is to get out, as John likes to say, get out of the way of ourselves, right? And make it easier for them and look futuristic. And again, we have meetings. Again, a habit that was started during COVID that we're still doing now is we're having meetings upon meetings with our field, with our employees, with our franchisees, not just as much best practices, but what have you seen that we've done wrong in the last 39 years, and what can we do better and more efficiently so that we can do this for 39 more.
John, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think you would want to do what any major like sports franchise or any large organization would do, and just invest in being different. Look at data collection to better inform decision making, and especially in restaurants where historically pretty low margins, and even the smallest decision can be really impactful. Also to go along with that, I love the movie Moneyball, and I think it's no surprise that the Mets, now we're talking sports, I could feel the eye rolls, but the Mets last year were like one of the worst teams in the league. And after Stephen Cohen, the Mets owner at this time, he made a serious investment in about 20 plus data analysts, and now they're top 5 in the league. So I think data in general can be a really powerful tool if used correctly.
Totally agree. And I love that idea of investing in being different. I was on an analyst briefing with an analyst firm just earlier today, and we were talking about how brands who've never really they haven't gotten started on digital transformation. They look at a competitor, they look at someone who's kind of like them, and they say, well, that seems to be successful. I want to be just like them. But really taking the time to understand your customers, what they want from you, what they think of your brand, and taking that time to use the data to invest in being different than your competitors is well worth the effort. That is the fastest path to future-proofing your brand, in my opinion. So great, thank you. So one last question for you, Chip, before we take some audience questions. Can you give us a glimpse into what's next, whether it's just something fun about the brand, something tech related, anything you want to share about what we'll see from Hooters?
I guess, the big thing for us turning 40 next year, right? Everyone stays 39, right? Even when they move on in years, they always say they 39 plus. We're gonna really roll with the 40th and show everyone that we're 40. A lot of people don't believe that. And try to get that customer to come in the very first time, right? Whatever it takes to get that person in the first time who's never been to Hooters. Everybody has their thoughts around what it is, but usually when you ask those people, they've never been there. So our job this next year will be celebrate 40th and celebrate the 40 years past, and look forward to reaching more customers so that we can experience 40 more.
Great. And I just have to say, as we were getting ready for this webinar and I was looking at your website, I love the emphasis that Hooters has on philanthropy and giving back in the community. It's just really inspiring and great to see that. So it's wonderful to have you as a partner, Chip and John with Tattle. Let's take a couple of minutes to take some audience questions. So Chip, this one looks like it's for you. How did you convince your stakeholders, and I know you're one of those, that the ROI was worth the investment in new technology?
The biggest is, like John said, we were able to test it, and at a great price. We were able to test it in quite a few stores. Yeah, I won't give up the deeds on that, but and not only were we able to test it in quite a few stores, we were able to expand it. And then it wasn't a rush, right? It wasn't like going out to buy a car when the car salesman, like John said, he just got out of his own way. I did the same. We let our people work together. There's quite a few things that we saw from the field aspect that they gave feedback that, hey, this would be great if we could get this. And Tattle was just, we've got you. We hear you. We'll fix that. And it was done. So I don't know if everybody will get that treatment though, John, but no, that was great. That was a big part of ours. And then, being able to show how many more, just in the short time frame that we did test, it seems like we tested a year, but we didn't. Just in the short time frame that we were able to test, we were able to show how many more customers we were reaching than we were previously. And that took care of the ROI piece for us.
Cool.
Let the record show it was not a year test.
It was not a year test.
Strike it from the record. What are some ways that operators can use loyalty and feedback to connect with guests instead of offering discounts? So instead of defaulting to here's $5 off, what are some ways that you're engaging with those guests?
Yeah, so our biggest is using it to let them know what's coming up next, right? No one hosts a football watch party like we do. We want them to know that, right? No one supports breast cancer awareness like we do. And a lot of people do not know that. And once they do, they tend to come in and try us. And that's the biggest thing, is just getting the first time customer in, whether it be through a delivery service. A lot of people during the pandemic, again, I use that time because we used that as opportunity. We were able to reach a lot of customers who had never been in Hooters or heard bad things about Hooters, didn't want to dine in, that they ordered from us. Some of them may have not known they were ordering from us, but when the bag showed up and it was Hooters wings and, a great burger, they were like, oh man. So when everything's lifted, I'm going to try that. So we gained a lot of customers through the pandemic that just came through delivery service providers. And through that data, we were able to find out that they were customers who had never been in our restaurant. And so that was great data to get to know that we were actually, for the little bit extra we're spending to have food delivered, we were actually gaining dine-in customers through that platform.
And a follow-up question to that, how do you use your loyalty program and that information that you're collecting from customer feedback to gift or influence people who maybe had a negative experience? Do you find it effective to give them discounts, or is it more about just giving them a response and making them feel heard?
Quick response is key,
Mhm.
right? First of all, and we're able to do that through Tattle, and get, quick response. And then as all operators would be able to find out, if they were to look at this program, you are also able to find out that if one of your restaurants is not responding quick enough, it rolls up right through the hierarchy to the regional manager, to the director of ops, all the way up. And that way that, it bubbles up within every day or however you set it, to make sure that customer is receiving feedback and that that customer is satisfied. And then another piece in the data that we receive that we were unable to receive before in the past is that, just because a restaurant, one of your own restaurants, lets you know that, hey, I contacted Lori, she's fine, everything's good, we worked it all out, she's gonna come back. There is nothing that guarantees that that you're gonna come back. But this platform allows us to know when that customer actually comes back and spends money in our
Mhm.
restaurant. And that's one that we call, we've totally recaptured that customer, because they would not come back if they were
Right.
not, you know, not satisfied with our reaction.
These are great questions. This one's for you, John. Is there a balance between the number of touch points for feedback? Is there a point where it's too much communication? Any research or data on that?
We like to basically, I mean, for me, right? We use email as our outreach method, so a guest will place an order, perhaps check in through Punch, and then they'll receive a post-transaction email, let's say 90 minutes after that happens. And so I think for me personally, and probably most people on this call, we're used to getting a lot of emails, and most of those emails maybe aren't the most exciting things to open up. And I'm sure most of them we don't open up at all, right? And so how easy is it just to simply delete an email and not think about it ever again? But from our perspective on the Tattle side, like, we want to make sure that if a guest is having an experience, that they have the opportunity to provide feedback on that experience. So, the short answer is no, I don't think there should be a limit. I think it should be up to the customer on if they want to interact and provide feedback. And if they do, they will. And if they don't, they'll simply delete it and move on with their life,
Mhm.
like we do every day with all the emails that we get.
Got it. Thanks. Looks like we have time for one more. So someone is asking, what type of loyalty campaigns do you run specifically targeting those higher earners and those frequent guests? So the true blue Hooters fans, Chip. Do you do any type of surprise and delight offerings or offer them any kind of VIP experience?
You know, the normal, right? Information in, information out. So as much information we can get from our customers, especially like their birthdays, the free wings on your birthday. We we suggest that they come in. We get a lot of feedback from our customers on that. That's one thing that they look forward to every year. And then the loyalty's growing. Loyalty for us, we have not used it 100% as we can yet with Tattle, and we will be in the future, and giving them reason to come back, even the loyal ones, right? Not let's not always just try to not always try to get the customer back that was not satisfied with their experience, but also keep the ones coming back for more with the ones who are our regulars.
Perfect. Well, we are out of time. Thank you both so much for joining this webinar today. I'm really excited to partner with both of you. Chip, best of luck with what's next at Hooters, and John at Tattle. And thank you all so much for joining us today too. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks,
Thank
Lori.
you.
Thanks, John.
Bye.